Welcome to Season 4 of the Changing Earth podcast with Sara F. Hathaway, blending survival fiction and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sara F. Hathaway.
Hi, and welcome to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 148, Season 4, Episode 24. And I have got a great show for you today. One of my favorite chapters in the Battle for the South adventure. And I got Nicole Italian from the Alone Show on our show today. So big treat. Well, before we get into that, I want to send a personal thank you to both Ellen K., who will forever remain my very first Patreon contributor ever, and Ray W. Thanks, guys, so much for going out and helping me out. Really appreciate that. They are enjoying all the benefits that come along with being a Changing Earth contributor, and it's just so much fun to know that I have the support of my audience out there driving me forward, keeping the show going. So thank you so much for heading out and doing that. If you're interested in going over to Patreon and becoming a contributor, you can head over to patreon.com, patreon.com/Changing Earth. Head over there and get signed up so you can start enjoying all those benefits as well. Last week in Battle for the South, Bennett met with the militia and they got their chain of command established. The federal forces attacked the north, kind of put a huge hurting on the mercenary army's forces, so they needed to regroup, figure out what was going on. This week, we joined Erika and Vince. They're making their way north in Albuquerque. And, they've been through a lot these past few days, and their bodies are definitely feeling the effects of all that they've been through. So here today to talk to us about natural pain control, both now because, we all got aches and pains, but also in a long-term survival situation is Nicole Italian. Nicole, as I mentioned before, has been featured on season 2, and she's going to be on season 5 that comes out in June. So a lot of fun to have her on the show. And more than that, she is a wonderful person. We hit it off so well. Really, really enjoyed the time I got to spend with her. So can't wait to introduce her to you. Before we get into the Battle for the South adventure, let's go ahead and thank our sponsor for this half hour.
Trapped in your own car, how are you going to get out alive? The only way out: break the glass. This credit card-sized device shatters the glass with the snap of your finger. Owl uses a carbide tip and the resonant frequency of the glass itself. Your strength is irrelevant. Owl has a recessed razor blade that slices through jammed seatbelts instantly and comes with a holder that adheres to your visor. OwlOpen.com. Proudly made in the USA. Order now while supplies last.
Chapter 24. Erika's body absolutely ached when she awoke in her tent the next morning. Vince was already up, and she tested her body carefully to see if she could even move. Her arm throbbed from her recent injury and the stress she had put on it the day before. Stretching every other body part, she babied her arm, fearful of tearing the stitches. Today she was excited to get up and mingle with the militia members. They delighted in meeting the legendary lone survivor of Sacramento, and Erika thought the least she could do was get to know them and make them smile. The recent victory had made that easy, but she knew there would be pressing times ahead. Cassidy had worried about a response from the White Sands base and numerous other federal outposts in New Mexico, but the federal forces had already moved most of the war machines out to Colorado and their new bases in the central region. The feds left small squads behind to give the image of a larger force, but even those forces were fractured. Half of the soldiers turned and joined the militia to remove the remaining federal forces left there. The militia had won the day in the South, but everyone had heard about the devastation the federal forces had leveled upon the North. Erika had to hope and not worry. Worrying without information would do no good. There was no way to get the information either. The militiamen and mercenaries established contact, but it was decided that personal details would not be shared because it was difficult to ensure that the feds weren't intercepting the communications. Erika had begged for the information, but the officers had forbidden it, convincing her that the federal forces would just love to arrest her children to draw her out. Taking a deep breath, Erika rose and dressed. Her bladder was full, and she couldn't take the pressure any longer. She walked swiftly to the outhouse. After relieving herself, she headed towards the chow line. It took her a while to get over there. She stopped to talk to a couple of young men who had fled the farms in Colorado. "I didn't think you were going to make it," Vince said, approaching her. He was returning an empty plate to the wash station. "Rough morning," Erika admitted, stretching her body. "I hear you," Vince agreed. "I ran into Eli. He said there's a caravan headed to meet up with the militia in Albuquerque. Some of those squads will be dispatched to join with the Mercs and take Vegas. Once we meet up with the Mercs, we can at least get news about our family." "Sounds like a plan. I'd be surprised if Dexter hasn't found us before that," Erika told him. "I've been thinking about that too. He found us when we were in Austin, but where did he go?" Vince wondered. With McClintock taken and the North being invaded, the Mercs must have initiated a regroup plan, Erika speculated. Bennett always said there was a plan B, but they wanted diplomacy and pressure from the citizens to bring the rule of the people back. "You've got a point," Vince admitted. Erika received a breakfast of rehydrated eggs and bacon powder. "Looks delightful," Erika jested. "It's not too bad," Vince assured her. "Yeah, but you eat baby food," Erika teased him. "That stuff's not bad either," Vince admitted. "My point exactly," Erika smiled at him. "You're so darn cute," Vince said, leaning over to kiss her. "Get out of here," Erika teased. "I'm going to break down our gear," Vince told her, kissing her again and discreetly squeezing her breast. Erika was joined by a group of young people eager to hear her stories as Vince left. She gave them a dramatic version as she ate her breakfast. She asked them about their stories as well, and what their future goals were. Their dreams were moderate. One wanted to own a bakery, and another had plans for a clothing store. One young woman talked about the books she had read about space travel. She went on and on about how she wished she could have lived before the Great Quake, when you could still grow up to be an astronaut. Erika assured her that she shouldn't give up. It could still be possible one day. Feeling uplifted, Erika left them all smiling and dreaming as she went to join Vince. He was finishing loading the packs. Lifting their heavy weight onto their shoulders, the couple headed to the staging area for the troops. Eli was there with Cassidy. "Hello, Erika, Vince," Cassidy greeted them as they approached. "Looks like I made the right choice when I asked you to accompany us," she said, eyeballing Eli as if she was rubbing it in his face. Eli stepped forward. "I heard how you two took out the embankment, so the train could unload. Good job," he declared, extending his hand in a gesture of goodwill. Vince and Erika shook his hand in turn and thanked him, smiling widely. "I also heard about the tech you were using. Would you mind letting our guys take a look at it when you get to Albuquerque?" Eli wondered. "No, we don't have a problem with that. If it can help keep more of these soldiers alive, then I'm in," Erika said cheerfully. "You two are contagious," Eli said, cracking a small smile. "I can understand why now. Take care, you two." He turned and walked away. Erika was confused, but glad that Eli was proud of what they had done. "Let's go, guys," Kyle said, driving a Jeep up. "You're still tagging along?" Vince teased him. "Yup," he replied, loading Erika's pack. It took them all day to travel north to Albuquerque. When they got there, Erika's body felt petrified from inactivity. "I know I don't usually, but I could go for a drink. What do you think, baby?" Erika leaned forward from the back to ask Vince as they entered town. "Sure," Vince agreed, thinking he would probably end up getting lucky tonight. They pulled up to the building they would be camped in until the troops moved out in 2 days. "I can unload the gear and get everything set up if you want," Kyle volunteered, trying to be helpful. "Really?" Erika asked. "That would be awesome." They dragged their battered bodies out of the Jeep, leaving hand in hand, and headed towards a neon sign on the other side of a dusty street. Walking into the dimly lit bar, the smell of cigarette smoke was thick in the air. "It's been a long time since I had one of those," Erika commented about her former habit. "Seriously, I'll pass on that. You never know when disaster will strike, and you'll be forced to quit all over again," he chuckled. They sat down at a table in the corner with 2 rickety chairs. The waitress approached and brought them both a shot. "We haven't ordered yet," Erika corrected the waitress. "They're from the gentleman at the bar," she commented. Vince and Erika looked to the bar and saw a man standing there with his arm up in a wave. "Do we know that guy?" Erika asked as he approached. The man had curly hair and a very full beard. He was good-sized and very thick, but she recognized his eyes. His eyes were those of a teenager she had known in her youth. Bert? Bert Nostrum? Erika asked loudly. He smiled widely, but his hand signaled for her to keep her voice down. Bert Green now, he informed her. I was hoping I might find you guys here. Do you know what happened to my dad and brother? We saw your dad in Cool right after the Great Quake, but there was a big fire. And he didn't survive it, Bert. I'm sorry, Erika explained. We never saw your brother. What happened to you? How did you end up here? Did you marry a landowner? She wondered. Long story. I'll explain it to you sometime. But for now, how about a toast to old friends? He said, holding up his glass. They all clanked their shot glasses together and drank. How the hell have you guys been? Good, Erika replied, a little confused. She figured Bert would have known their story, like everyone else did. Had she been in his place, she probably would have paid even closer attention, having known them from the past. She could tell Vince was having the same confusion and eyeballed him carefully. Where have you been, Bert? In a cave? Vince questioned sarcastically. Erika rarely drank, and the shot had gone down hot in her throat. She felt weird, and the talking of the two men started to slow down in her mind. Just as she was saying to herself, I can't be feeling the effects already, her world went black. Kyle was approaching the bar after unloading the gear when he stopped. He watched 4 men carry Erika and Vince's limp bodies out of the bar and load them into a truck. He frantically ran to get the Jeep. He thought he had lost them, but just as he turned down the main street, he spotted the truck leaving town. He discreetly followed them many miles north to a large estate that was heavily guarded. I have to get help, he said to himself as he drove by nonchalantly. He took a roundabout path so he would not pass back by the estate and headed south at top speed. He never realized the gas light had been on for miles until he sputtered to a stop on the deserted highway. Erika awoke in a dream state. Through blurred vision, she saw wooden walls and smelt fresh hay. A man was there talking to her. He was an older version of a young man she had grown up with. His words were distorted in her mind. After the quake, I had no choice. I was in New Mexico visiting my friend on his ranch. California was cut off. The chaos began. I fought with Dustin to keep his land. When things stabilized, I took his name to avoid the refugee system. Now I have a family to protect. I didn't want to do it, Erika. I'm so sorry, he pleaded to her. His words echoed through her mind. Then there was a horrible clanking sound. She flashed back to the cell in Las Vegas. She cowered in the corner and put her hands over her ears. The noise rang through her head like sonic church bells, and her vision blurred even more. Don't be sorry, Bert, a woman's voice hissed as she entered. This thing is not worth your time. Yes, ma'am, Bert replied quietly. Erika couldn't tell reality from the drug-induced dream, but she thought she recognized the lady and her voice. She remembered the words, this family has been through enough. Could it be that woman? Corinne Tillman from the regional meeting? The one where the final vote for probation or prison had come down to her, but she had voted against prison. That's right. You know me, don't you? The woman seethed, standing over her. I couldn't make a martyr of you then, but now I'll have your treasonous heads next to General McClintock's. Erika was infuriated. She tried to will her body into action, but she couldn't. The drugs were fogging her brain, blurring her vision, and disrupting her motor skills. The woman laughed at Erika's patheticness and turned to leave. Erika used all her focus to move her leg out just enough to trip the woman, and she fell with a thud on her face. Bert giggled as her guard came in and punched Erika across the mouth. Erika slumped into the hay. Her mind went into delirium. The man kicked her a few more times, and the metallic flavor of blood almost made her puke in her drug-induced stupor. What are you laughing at? The woman cursed, getting back to her feet. Give her another dose and keep her well drugged. She's a spunky little thing. Yes, ma'am, Bert replied. And Bert, she paused before going out the door, don't screw this up or your whole family will end up in the refugee system. Do you hear me? Yes, ma'am, he replied quietly. Do you hear me, Bert? She hissed in his face. Yes, ma'am, he said louder. Bert returned with a shot and a cotton ball. Erika desperately tried to get away, but her body was crippled and the fog was heavy. "I'm sorry," was the last thing she heard before her world went black again. Erika finds herself in a very precarious position, and she's in a lot of pain. There's nothing she can do about it from her position right now. We'll just have to see how that unfolds. Definitely one of my most favorite chapters because I love those action sequences and the mystery and everything. So you're just going to have to keep tuning in to find out what's going to happen with Erika. But in the meantime, we have Nicole Italian on the show. Nicole is a scientist, a mother, an educator, a researcher, an expeditionary leader, a safari guide, an herbalist, and a traditional skills instructor. Whew! She does a lot of stuff. She grew up in Massachusetts and connected with nature at a very early age. Her stepfather was an enormous influencing and offering constant support, teaching her how to play guitar and mentoring her through outdoor activities. Nicole's first exposure to true wilderness living began while working as a field biologist in Botswana. Following a job as a U.S. game warden with the U.S. Peace Corps, she began tracking and researching lions in southern Africa. So how cool is that? She immediately fell in love with African landscapes and the Sam Bushman's way of life. And later, while working with the Sam Bushman, Nicole completed her doctorate, focused in cultural anthropology within the field of sustainability education. So she's been out there teaching, learning survival skills, and really getting all this great hands-on experience. She's taught at a lot of different colleges, and she's also been featured on seasons 2 and soon to be season 5 of Alone. So I'm excited to have her on the show. So let's go ahead and welcome Nicole to the show. Today, I am honored to have Nicole Italian on the show. She has appeared in season 2 of Alone, and coming this June, she will be in season 5. So it's my honor to have you on the show, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it. It's nice to be here today.
Herbal healing is one of my favorite topics because in 2008, I had a lot of medical problems, and Western medicine decided to put me on like 8 different pills, and I felt like an old person with my pill case, and I'm like, you know what, I am not sick because of lack of medicine. So I threw all them out the window, and I started researching, how can I heal myself? So I'm always interested to talk with an apocryphy, and that is what you do. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and just explain to us how you got into this?
That'd be great. Yeah, my name's Dr. Nicole Italian, and I'm an herbalist, among other things. I'm also a survival skills instructor. And, one of the things, very similar story to you, Sarah, I really got into herbal medicine because I was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, in the year 2000, and got super sick. I was pretty much bedbound, not walking for 2 years, and was on all sorts of Western medication, really was listening to what my doctors said, kind of blindly, as a lot of people do, I think, because they don't know any better. And finally decided to take charge of my own health. Went off all of my Western medication, looked at my diet, looked at my lifestyle, looked at my stress levels, all of that, and looked into herbal medicine. And I've been working in Botswana for 23 years and spent a lot of time with the Kalahari Bushmen. And I go out a lot with the women collecting medicinal plants and worked a lot with healers there, learning about medicine over in the Kalahari Desert. And when I've been in the Pacific Northwest, really started to focus on what is there locally around me that I can use in my daily healing journey. And then later on, after I'd really worked and studied with a lot of people and researched a lot of medicines, herbal medicines, started to reach out and think, now how can I help others with that? And that led to my herbal apothecary, where I both do herbal wellness coaching for people to help people get off Western medication and figure out what will work best for them and come up with a holistic wellness plan, and also what specific herbs will treat different things for people so they can use things that they can find in the natural world. But I also make things for people as well, so they don't have to go out and make everything themselves. They can purchase them from me if they want to. But I also love teaching people about what herbs they should use and what will be really helpful for them. And for me, I've done really well with my multiple sclerosis. It's been 18 years now, and I'm doing well, and I still don't use Western medication. Through diet, lifestyle, and herbal medicine and supplements, I'm able to treat myself and do really, really well.
That is a fantastic story. I mean, it just shows how amazing it is, how amazing the plants are that are right there that we're not even using. And I also love the fact that you do have products available so people who, can't necessarily get out into the woods every day and go find these things can have access to them without having to worry about, you go to some of the herb stores and there's a whole wall of stuff that you could potentially buy. And you feel all weird, scooping them out and stuff. I mean, you get used to it after you do it, but I think it's really cool that you have the products right there for people to buy. That's a great a great additive to the website. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have customers repeat customers who come back and back again, and I get so many people writing me about how this worked for them and why this worked for them when nothing else had, and they tried all of these Western things and nothing had worked, and finally they're well, and it really is heartwarming. It's really a great sort of feedback loop for me to provide medicine for people that makes them healthy, and then then they feel good and they tell me about it, which makes me feel good. So
right? Yeah,
it's been a really wonderful journey.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The powers that be work in mysterious ways. Maybe you were put on that journey so that you could help all those people out, and that's exactly how I feel. That's just incredible. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. I feel that way as well. Yeah.
So on this chapter of my book, my lead character, she's in some pain as well. She was in this big knife battle, got kind of hurt. She, then they were in this other battle where they were taking the southern wall, and, it's just bumps and bruises and pains and strains, and her body's just hurting at this point. So why would it be so critical to manage your pain level, both in today's society and in, if we were in a long-term survival situation?
That's a great question. Pain is really debilitating, and chronic pain is so debilitating, both to the body and to the spirit.
Yes.
People that have long-term pain, it really leads to a lot of stress and anxiety, and it's very hard to live with on a daily basis. It leads to depression. It leads to all sorts of things. And then, of course, it also you're in pain. That's a terrible way to be. That amount of stress on your body and your mind for so long is so difficult to deal with. And a lot of people they don't want to live with that pain. And some people will use a lot of Western medication to sort of mask that pain, but they won't get to the root of what that pain is. And I think it's really important to find the source of that pain so you can take care of it and try to heal yourself in a really good way. Another thing about long-term pain is pain usually leads to more pain if you don't take care of it. For example, if you're in pain, you're going to decrease your daily tasks because maybe your shoulder hurts and you're not able to move it, and then all of a sudden you're not doing your daily tasks, so now you're exercising less. Well, when you exercise less, you're not moving that body, all it does is it leads to more pain, right?
That's true.
And then, and so it sort of feeds on itself, and so all of a sudden, you're way down the line, and now you're in serious pain. You've got extra weight on you because you haven't been able to exercise. That extra weight leads to more pain because it's more stress on your body. You don't have the muscles around the area of pain to be able to support that. And that's more talking about muscular pain. But if it's neurological pain, same sort of thing. It's very debilitating, can lead to depression. And also in a if there's a situation like, your character is in a post-apocalyptic world, that stress and anxiety that you're in actually makes people feel more pain as well. So there's all sorts of reasons why you really need to have proper pain management.
That is like the negative feedback loop, right? More stress and anxiety equals more pain equals more stress and anxiety. Oh, goodness.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And it's terrible to deal with. It really is. It's a tough situation to be in.
In 2008, when I had a lot of my stomach problems, I went from working 10-hour days, working out for 4 hours after that, to being in the fetal position on the sofa. And,
wow. Yeah.
Just everything that they prescribed me was anti. And I'm like, none of these is solving what is happening to me. I can't, I go from being this like super athlete to being like on the fetal position. Like, this is not, reality. So yeah, and it really made me realize, it made me really care for people who have long-term illness, because what a horrible, horrible thing to have to experience, And so it really, that's why I love the work that you're doing as far as trying to help people out of that cycle, because it's just a horrible place to be in. And then you start questioning, is this in my head? am I really, am I just, am I screwed up? Is there, is it my fault? Right? All these questions, and it's just really hard place to be.
It is, because that's the anxiety and depression piece of pain management that a lot of times people forget about. They think about the actual pain and how much that hurts, but they forget about the psychological impact that has on a person.
Yeah, and then couple that with like extreme stress because your whole life has been turned upside down. That could be a super challenge.
Right, and pain can even lead to stress, like maybe money anxiety. Right, all of a sudden you're not able to work, so you're having financial anxiety. It may lead to losing your house. I mean, there's all sorts of things. Pain can really bring you down a really, really tough path.
Yeah, we need to, I think as a society, we need to look at that a little bit more closely, the effects of it.
I agree.
Right? So in today's society, we can easily make dietary changes. And a lot of our dietary changes, like you were saying with your MS, can really, really solve a lot of problems. My martial arts instructor had level 4 cancer, and he self-healed through dietary changes. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think people would really find that of value of changes that they can make now to manage their pain in a better way.
Yeah, you bet. It's such a great point. I mean, people think of the medicines to sort of cover up the pain and mask the pain, but what's really the source of some of those things? And diet is huge. I think it's really important to take charge of your own diet. I know it's hard sometimes, but once you start down that path of changing your diet, it actually becomes a lot easier if you get to a diet where you're used to eating those foods, and then you're not having these cravings like you normally have if you're eating a lot of sugar or things like that.
Guilty.
Yeah, so some basic, guilty pleasures, right? And you have to cheat a little. I always say 80-20. If you're good 80% of the time, you're probably fine. So every once in a while you have a slice of pizza. Every once in a while you have an bowl of ice cream. That's okay. You don't need to totally make yourself so you're not eating anything ever, but you need to, the majority of time, you need to be making really good choices. And it's good for all sorts of things. The main thing I try to cover in dietary changes that seems to help with pain relief the most are two things. The first is reducing inflammation, and the second is fixing leaky gut. And what I mean by that, so a lot of pain is caused by inflammation. Now, if you're talking about nerve pain, it's a little bit different, and I can talk about that. But generally, decreasing inflammation in your bloodstream is key. And if you can figure out what it is that your body's reacting to, then you're taking care of leaky gut, which is when things are in your body that actually leak through your gut and get into your bloodstream, certain proteins, and then your body has an inflammatory reaction to them. So and then that causes inflammation, of course, right? So they're really kind of two sides of the same coin, this inflammation and leaky gut. Things that I personally do is you can get a test called an IgG anti-inflammatory, or an IgG food sensitivity test, and it looks for things that are inflammatory for you. For me, gluten is a big one. I have celiac. I can't have any gluten. For a lot of people, grains and gluten are a big one. Dairy is a big one for people as well, except maybe plain yogurt because it's got probiotics, which are really important to have in your body, taking care, again, of your gut health. And lowering sugar. People eat a lot of processed sugar. It is not good for you. It's in a lot of things you wouldn't even guess that it should be in. And sugar is a real issue in our society. It messes with your gut flora, and it causes huge reactions in people. I think just by cutting out sugar and gluten, you can actually take care of most inflammation in your body. Now, those are changes that you make with what you put, what you're actually eating. So I'd say if you can cut out gluten or just processed foods, if you cut out most processed foods, you're really going to cut out gluten. Cutting out dairy for some people, again, it depends. That's really person to person. I do okay with dairy, but a lot of people don't. And lowering your sugar intake. So those three are really sort of the triad that is important for dietary changes. Now, there are also things you can do, like I call it rainbow eating. You want to eat things of many different colors. So you have things that are orange and things that are green, and so you're getting and things that are yellow. You're getting a rainbow of colors. So you're eating really good food, and that's how you get your fruits and vegetables primarily. Making sure you get a range of a lot of raw foods as well into your diet, and just so you're getting all of your nutrients. The other thing that you can do, other than what you're eating food-wise, are simple supplements to help decrease inflammation. And it's not that hard to do. You want to make sure you have enough omega-3s. Omega-3s are super, super important. They're really involved in a lot of things in your body, and you get those from fish, but you can also take supplements. Turmeric is a really big one. I think most people who've probably listened are like, oh, of course, turmeric, that has curcumin in it. And that's really good as an anti-inflammatory to take internally. Ginger is another really good one, especially for joint and muscle pain. Really helps with inflammation. So those are things you can take internally for pain, and those are for your diet. I'll talk a little bit about things you can take externally and some other things that really you can take internally that target pain. But as far as your diet goes, increasing those in your diet would be a really good thing to do.
Yeah, that's definitely along the lines. And then like, I know it's difficult for some people, and everybody goes, oh yeah, organic, but it really does make a difference because you're ingesting so many fewer pesticides and chemicals into your body. So it actually really is important. And it took a while to actually sell me on that, because I was like, whatever, what's really the big difference? But my son loves milk. He is like a milk hound, my little son. He's 6, you know. And my martial arts instructor was like, I hope you're buying organic milk. And I'm like, well, it's so much more expensive to. And he's like, you know what? They have shown that because of all the estrogen in the cows, boys are growing breasts, and it's causing bone spurs. So you're not going to pay the couple bucks extra to get organic, and you're going to cause all this damage to your kid? Really? And I'm like,
yeah, that's a wake-up call, isn't it?
yeah, that was a little bit of like, okay, can't really say anything to that, you know.
Yeah, no, it's true. Organic is so important, and especially for dairy and milk. I mean, you really don't want to. There's so many antibiotics that are given. For example, I'm getting a part of a neighbor's cow this year. It's an organic, organic cow. It's down the road.
Yeah, you've seen the pasture.
I know where that meat's coming from. Yeah. Exactly. And I know that there's no antibiotics that have been injected into that animal, because when you put antibiotics, you don't be eating antibiotics on a daily basis. How terrible. They're also, first of all, there's resistance, but second of all, you're messing with your gut flora. And so much research has been done about the importance of what is in your gut. They've actually done things, and, I'm not saying I recommend this. It may be the wave of the future. Who knows? They've done, fecal transplants and things like that in order to get the right gut flora into people.
Whoa.
And it's helped immensely with curing diseases. I work with the Kalahari Bushmen. Their gut flora is sort of one of the healthiest in the world. And you know what? They don't eat. They eat from the land, and they live outside, and they don't get the diseases that we get. They just don't occur.
Yep.
Another really great thing to add in that's organic is organic bone broth. I try to drink it every morning, and it also helps to repair leaky gut, and it really helps just repair sort of the damage that gets done by all the things that we put in our body. So organic bone broth is a really nice thing to add into your diet if you're looking to make an easy dietary change. Have a cup of that in the morning.
Yeah, that's where some of my problems actually stem from, was because I had severe earaches when I was a child living in the Midwest and the humidity. And so I was on antibiotics for like my first 6 years of life. I was basically on amoxicillin all the time. And so what it turns out is that a lot of that permanently stunted my bacterial growth in my intestines and stuff because of it. So yeah, I'm always loading up on probiotics and trying to add extra fiber and find ways to keep my gut healthy. So that organic bone broth, great tip there. I'm gonna have to try
it's
that.
a really easy thing to add in. Yep. I like easy things that are easy to do, right?
I'm sure it doesn't
have to be able to do them on a daily basis.
Like the apple cider vinegar with the aloe juice, or the aloe juice in it. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if I could drink it, I would, but holy smokes, I don't think so.
It doesn't look good, does it? No.
Like, how could? Okay, so I'm gonna put it in my smoothie. Nope, it just wrecked the whole smoothie.
Yeah, they definitely have to be things that you're willing to do on a daily basis. It's so important. Yeah. It really is. Otherwise, people won't actually do them.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
It's got to fit. It's got to fit life, and you do have to be open-minded to make those changes. I mean, it's better for you. So.
It is. I mean, I talked to someone who I've worked with a lot of people who have autoimmune diseases. I do wellness coaching, especially for people with those issues, because that's so familiar to me. And most people that come to me are ready to make a change. They come to me and they're ready to make a holistic wellness plan, and we're going to move forward, and they really make the changes, and they've benefited hugely. I've had so many clients who've come and went from not walking to walking again, and are living life to their fullest now because they've made these changes that I've suggested. And but I've ever had a friend of my mother's had contacted me. My mom said, you should contact my daughter, but the woman wasn't ready, and right. She just said, I'm sorry, I just can't change my diet. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that is your choice, and she's gone downhill really quickly. And I just wish that she had been able to, make different choices at an earlier stage. And I just know she would be so much healthier now than she is. So it's really sad when you see someone that could change but don't. But people really do have to be ready themselves. I get a lot of messages, hey, my mother has this, or I'm trying to help my wife, and I really would like the wife or the mother to contact me directly, because they have to be willing to make the change, or it's kind of a waste of time if people aren't ready.
It's kind of like
to make
a drug
the changes
addiction,
themselves.
If you're not willing to quit it yourself, then nobody's going to make you do it. It's got to be a person.
Exactly. We're all responsible for our own health and our own happiness.
Yep, exactly.
No one can do that for us.
You can lead the horse to water, but you cannot force him to drink it. Yeah,
exactly.
One of my friends up in Tahoe was diagnosed with cancer, and I was like, dude, you got to change your diet over to an alkaline diet. You gave him all these suggestions, and he's just like, nope, I'm going to still be drinking beer and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, well, good luck to you, buddy.
Yep.
I hope things work out for the better, but you're just not going to be able to see the difference when you aren't ready to make those changes. So.
Yeah, exactly. Very true.
That's sad too.
Wow.
So, how realistic would it be to maintain these changes if we were in a long-term survival situation in like this post-apocalyptic society?
Strangely, I think it would be easier. I think that in a post-apocalyptic world, it's sort of like living in the woods. So I've spent time, only living off the land. And at those times that I'm only living off the land, you know what? I'm gluten-free, I'm dairy-free, I'm not eating any sugar. I mean, all of those times that I've spent, Alone Season 2, 57 days living off the land, boy, I felt great. I was eating lots of omega-3s, I was eating lots of plants, everything I was eating was, wild, and I think your body is able to absorb wild nutrients really well. That's what our bodies are accustomed to. We're not accustomed to sort of, processed foods. Evolutionarily speaking, our bodies have not caught up to that type of food, right? We're still hunter-gatherers in our DNA. So I think it'll be easier in a way to be eating in a more healthy way, because you're probably not going to have a lot of access to things like processed foods. Hopefully we are eating things that are a lot more wild and organic. It is very difficult to get enough calories that way. Obviously we'll be supplementing, and a lot of people who are preppers, I assume, probably have garages like mine where they've got all this food stored. I try to store food that isn't full of gluten and things like that. I don't go for the large things of pastas and things like that. I try to go for rice and beans and dehydrated vegetables and dehydrated fruit, things that are going to be really, really healthy should something ever happen and I have to rely on that food that I have stored. So part of it depends on what your preparation is like. So when you're prepping, keep that in mind. You don't have to keep a lot of stuff. Yeah, I have some things of sugar, but I don't keep a lot of processed food in my garage as my prepped food. I really try to maintain my diet, so I make it so I can maintain my diet should something happen. And then, part of it, things will obviously be more difficult. I think, food becomes an issue. But I think at first people are going to be using up their processed foods. But once those are gone, you're really going to have to start growing your own vegetables. And, hopefully you already have a garden. You can already have fruit trees planted. And I think the importance of having stuff growing where you live cannot be underestimated for prepping. I live in southwestern Washington and live on a good-sized property, and I've got lots of fruit trees. I have a big garden, making sure I live next to the woods. I have a real private property up here, so there's a lot of my medicines are right here in the woods. But I'm also making sure that my medicines are planted in my garden. So I have food and medicine on my land, so that should whatever happen, if that happens one day, I'm going to have access to all of that right here. So I've prepped not just by having food and medicine stockpiled, but I also have prepped by planting things on my land that are going to come back year after year, so they will always be accessible. And that's really important, that sort of forward thinking. And not everyone's going to think that way, but hopefully the people that, listening to your show and reading your books are in that mindset, right? Yeah. So we're going to preach to the choir, hopefully. These are the people that are going to be, maybe I should plant some arnica, and maybe I should plant some oregano and ginger and all of these things and have it in my garden. So should I need it for medicine or for food, it's available, and I've got it here.
Ginger's been a kind of intimidating one for me. How easy is it to grow ginger?
It's fairly easy to grow ginger. You also grow wild ginger. Where I live, I think probably where you live as well, ginger grows. It's a little bit different, the wild ginger, than the cultivated ginger, but it grows pretty well. And I just transplant it I have it right here in the forest, but I also transplant it into my garden so that I've got it really, really accessible. Yeah, I love that. Just, go to the forest and replant a little in my garden and make sure that because then it's going to spread really well. It's in really good soil. And then I always have it available.
It's going to grow there because it's native,
Exactly. Yes, and it's going to grow no matter what, what the conditions are, because it's native. It's used to the levels of rain and drought that we have here, so it's not going to die off if we get a big drought or something like that. It's going to stay because it is a native plant.
Yeah, I do that with wild carrots. I love the little wild carrots. They're so good. And I've actually seen a report on them where they were using it to cure lung cancer, which was crazy. I don't have the information on it, but the wild carrots, I do the same thing. I'm like, okay, they're all growing over there. We have to do a 200-foot clearance for of our fire safety because we're in the wildfire zone. We can't keep our insurance without a 200-foot clearance. And when I'm out there doing that work, I'm just like, I'm so sorry, wild forageables. I love you, but, because we have 40 acres, so we have enough outside of that zone, but it still just breaks my heart sometimes. So if I find a good clutch of really good stuff, I'll just transplant it someplace else, So I'm just like, oh my gosh, this just breaks my heart. I'm like, I could eat 3/4 of this right here. Like, oh, so. Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
It's a tough thing to do. So, very cool though. I was thinking at first that it might be hard to maintain those dietary changes. But when you put it that way, it's like, yeah, that makes total sense, actually. It's all right there anyway. We're just not doing it now because it's too much work. It's a lot of work to go out there and harvest all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I harvest a lot of greens from the wild because I really think they're good to eat. I was out fishing with a friend. I was out fishing with a friend earlier this week up in the Olympics in Northwest Washington, and we didn't have any greens with dinner. And I just started grazing over the forest to put greens. And he looked at me like it was really funny. He looked at me like I was crazy. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm getting my greens.
I gotta eat my greens."
Grazing in the forest near our campsite, and he tasted a couple of them. One he said he didn't like, but he liked the other one. I said, "Yep, you can eat these." So it's a good way to get your greens.
Tons of stuff. Yeah, we've got all kinds of miner's lettuce and chickweed and all kinds of good stuff out here. So it's just making sure the dogs haven't visited it right before you do.
Definitely.
I'm like, I don't know. The dogs came through here. Let's pick a different area. So let's get back to a little bit more of the pain relief. What if somebody is having nerve issues? You had kind of touched there, and what can we do for that?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different possibilities. So, nerve pain is really specific. There's a few things that are really my go-to for nerve pain. The first is St. John's wort. St. John's wort is a wonderful one. Again, you can grow it in your garden super easily. And it's a really, really good plant for neuropathy or any type of nerve pain. You can take it internally. It's also good for arthritis. You can take it internally. You can also put it externally. I mix it with lavender and helichrysum oil, which is boswellia, and also cayenne, so make it sort of like capsaicin cream is really good at hindering pain perception. So it really helps with the pain. So I do a mixture of that externally and also a little lavender. And you put that I make it as an external salve. You put it right on where you're having the nerve pain, and boy, it works really, really well. And internally, the other thing that works great for that, I live in Oregon and Washington, and CBD is legal here, so marijuana is legal here. So CBD is really good for nerve pain as well, both internally and externally. So those are my go-tos: CBD, St. John's wort, capsaicin, and then also I add in some lavender and helichrysum. But those are really, really good for nerve pain. And now there's so many other types of pain. You know, it really is. You know, if I go to I have a few go-tos that are pretty easy. For example, first of all, I'll do the anti-inflammatories if I'm having any sort of muscle pain or anything like that, because they really help. So those are the things I was talking about before, like the internal turmeric and the internal ginger and anything like that. Garlic's another really good one that we have, and everyone seems to have access to. It's easy to grow. Garlic, most people have garlic around. That's a great anti-inflammatory too. But externally, rings that work really well for pain: willow bark, internally and externally. Willow the genus is salix, and aspirin is salicylic acid. So that's all aspirin is. So if you've got a newly growing willow bud, and willow grows everywhere. Look at the rivers. It's everywhere. Yeah. You get about an inch of freshly growing willow and take the tip off, and that's about an aspirin. You do want to be careful if people are bleeding heavily, because you definitely don't want to give someone aspirin if they're bleeding heavily, because it just increases the blood flow. But if there's a situation other than that, aspirin, you'll have aspirin at hand from the wild. You don't need to have bottles of aspirin. Clove oil is really good for toothache. Toothache's a really big thing. If you're especially in a post-apocalyptic world, toothache would be terrible. I keep a thing of clove oil around the house, and if I have a bad toothache, I put that on it, and it makes it go away almost immediately.
It really is. It's good
other
stuff.
things, it's really good. Arnica. It has something called helenin in it, which is an analgesic, and it also has anti-inflammatory. So I use arnica externally, and it's really good for. I make it put it in my salves, and you put it on your wherever you're having pain, and it's a really, really good one for external for pain
too, right? Yeah.
Really good for joint pain. Yes.
Yep.
Calendula is a great one that people can grow in their garden really easily. It's an anti-inflammatory, and it also has things like it's antimicrobial and antifungal and all those things. But it helps. It also has immunostimulant properties. So it actually, if you put it on a cut or something, it actually helps it helps regrow collagen. So that's a really good, nice anti-inflammatory.
Nice.
That's really good. Yeah, it's really good access, too. It's very easy to access that.
Just side note, can you use that as like a beauty product, too, on like in a facial cream? Yeah, right.
So I make a face cream with calendula oil. I infuse calendula in almond oil, and then I make a face cream from it, and that's what I use on my face. It's really easy to make, and it's a great product. I don't sell it on my website. I just make it. I make it for me and some of my friends. It's a really good one.
I do some blogs for one of my friends who has a skincare place, and she makes her own things, and so that's why that popped up in my head immediately when you said that. I'm like, oh, that helps with reducing wrinkles and helping your skin from getting all the spots and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Calendula is fabulous at that. It really is. It rebuilds collagen really, really well, which is, as we age, Yep. Yep, it really works. It really does.
Awesome.
Some other ones that are maybe a little less common but are really good for pain. Boswellia is good for inflammation, but some of the ones that are really hard hitters, I would say, would be CBD. And again, it's if you can grow that, that's the nice thing. You can grow it in your garden. Yeah. So if you can get a CBD heavy plant and grow that in your garden, that's a really, really good one. It's in where I live. It's all legal, so it's pretty easy to do. I think I can grow 7 plants or something. It's something really high. I mean,
California
one plant will take you
and
for.
We can do up to 6 or something like that, I believe.
Okay.
So
maybe it's that here too. But it's a pretty large amount. That's a lot of.
That's way
that's a lot
too
of
much.
CBD that you'll have access to.
That's way more than you need for like a whole year.
Definitely. Oh, one plant would go for a year unless you're making stuff for other people. But definitely, you can stock up on that stuff, and you can dry it, extract the oil and keep it. One that I've used and have had actually great success with is something called kratom, Kratom. It's a Mitragyna species. It comes from Thailand. And I don't know if it would grow in our society. I bet it would grow in the southern part of the United States pretty well. But you can actually get it in powdered form in pretty large amounts. And you just need small amounts of it. And it's a really, really great painkiller. I think it's one of those, if you're going to stock up and it's really hard to stock up on modern medicines. You can get, if you're able to get a 3-month mail order supply of your medicines, always do that. Always order a couple days early so you have enough, and all of those sort of standard techniques. Or when you travel in foreign countries, it's really easy to stock up on antibiotics and things like that. I travel a lot, and in other countries, antibiotics are really easy to get over the counter, so I always make sure I have a supply. Gotcha. Or you can get them from vets. Veterinary supplies are a really cheap way to get antibiotics and have it stockpiled. But that's more, talking about infection versus pain care. But, also infection can cause a lot of pain.
Right, yeah.
So something like kratom and CBD, having that stocked up at your house would be a really, really good thing to do for general, pain care in the future. Should something happen, lasts a long time, and is really, really excellent. You just want to make sure you're getting, the right stuff and you're getting it from a really good source. I can't stress that enough, that you're getting it from a source that is trusted. But if you find a good trusted source, those are both really excellent painkillers to have around because, if you have a situation and you don't have access to medical care or it's the future or you want to go the herbal route, you want to make sure that you have those things on hand.
Right. And a lot of people talk about alcohol, but you know what? Alcohol is so much more useful as a cleanser for the wound. And then also, if a lot of alcohol will thin your blood out even more. So if you're bleeding and things like that.
Yes, it's a bad idea for a painkiller.
Yep. It's not a good idea.
It's super important to stockpile. Like I stockpile vodka because I use it to extract the medicine out of my herbs.
Right. Yes.
So I have stockpiles of vodka here because I also have stockpiles of, I'm always making herbal remedies for my apothecary, which can be found on my website, NicoleItalian.com. I'm always making this. So I always have all of these herbs made up, and those tinctures will last at least 10 years once you've extracted the herbs. They last a really long time if they're not kept in the heat. But I always keep vodka on hand because then I can always extract more herbs should I need them. And that's what I mainly use it for. Yeah, or a cleanser it works really well as. But, you don't want to be treating someone, here, drink this bottle of whiskey as you see in the movies all the time.
Yeah, no,
and we're gonna operate on you now.
We're going to cut your leg off, and we're going to thin your blood before we do that. So good luck staying alive afterwards.
Oh, boy. Yeah, don't give them aspirin either. Right, exactly. They'll bleed to death on your table.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yep, I tried that when I was younger, getting a tattoo. I'm like, I'll just have a couple drinks first, and no, not a good idea. Not a good idea.
Oh boy.
Those young decisions we make. So.
Oh yes, we've all made them. That's how you learn, right? Hopefully.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully. I don't know if that's true all the time. So do you have any alternative methods that, might not be ethical or legal in today's society that if we're in a post-collapse society and we had to turn to these, powerful pain relievers that we could access at that point?
Well, I think, too, that I already mentioned, CBD and kratom, they're actually illegal in some states, and they're not legal across the country. Even kratom in a couple of states, they've made it illegal. I don't quite know why, but they have. So I think, if you're living in an area, I'm not going to tell people to break the law, right? But if you're living, I'm not going to tell you to break the law, but if you're living in an area where, these things are not accessible to you, they are accessible in a lot of places. And I almost think it's kind of foolish to not have pain relievers on hand, just in case something does happen and you need them. What are you going to do then? Right. Generally it's really hard to stockpile Western medication because they're really highly controlled. So unless you have a good relationship with a physician who's willing to give you, a month's worth of pain relievers just in case, or you start stockpiling a pain reliever that you're already
on. But they put themselves at risk doing that.
They do, exactly. Morphine is is a great thing, just in case there's a severe, something really severe that happens would be a good thing to have around. But it's really hard to get your hands on something like that for the, a normal person. How are you going to get your hands on something like that? So relying on these things that are easier to get, like CBD, kratom, and also things like arnica and things that you can grow in your own yard, I think is really, really important to have that sort of stuff on hand, regardless of where you live. I think it's just sort of socially and kind of morally responsible to make sure that you have some alternative should something happen and you can't get to a doctor.
Absolutely.
Because pain can kill someone. They can go into shock.
Yeah, exactly. And like we started training jiu-jitsu just a couple weeks ago. And, I've been working out. I'm a second-degree black belt. I've been working out tons. And, my husband was just lifting weights with me at the gym, not really doing as much cardio. So he went to, he wrestled in his past. So he goes to jiu-jitsu class with me. And after one class, his back was just hellaciously messed up. So not just muscle pain, but, he's got pulled in his sciatic in the hip. And so we're still trying to deal with that. But he can't
I have
move.
Some salve I can send you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that would be great. Because he couldn't move for like a week. So my point was, imagine now that you're in this post-collapse society and you get into an altercation with somebody. And you are not used to wrestling around with people or being in that, type of situation. The next day, you might have come out of that altercation the winner, but the next day you can't move. So what if somebody else comes into camp? What if you got to go get food? You got to go get water. You got to do all these things, and your body physically cannot move because you're in so much pain. That's a problem.
Yep. It is a problem, and it's a really important problem to think about now before things actually happen.
Yeah. So, my post-apocalyptic mind went to, oh my gosh, this is a huge issue because I would be down him, and that's really important to me, So that's, unacceptable kind of situation. So I was like, all right, we got to figure out, what do you do about these kind of situations?
Yep, it's really important. It's a great topic. I'm really glad you brought it up today, and I'm so glad to talk about it with you today. It's a really important topic, and I hope a lot of people hear this podcast and start prepping and starting making sure that they've got things growing and find out what's even growing naturally around them and start stocking up and making sure that they'll be able to deal with pain and, in a situation. It even could be a week-long situation where there's an earthquake or a hurricane or some kind of natural disaster and someone in your household gets hurt and you don't have access. It doesn't have to be a long-term post-apocalyptic situation.
Right.
This could be even just a few days, but if you need pain relief, you need it immediately. And having these things on hand are superbly important. So thank you for this, bringing this up. It's a really important thing for people to know.
And the dietary changes, I just want to remind the audience, those dietary changes are just as important as having the stuff on hand. That's why I was so excited that you were a nutritionist too, because that is just essential on top of it. And then the daily exercise. I can't overemphasize it enough. You got to keep your body moving if you want your body to move when you need it to in a disaster scenario, or just going to work, just doing your daily thing. So.
Yep. Super important. I think people forget about that. It's important that, they've got these big bug out bags, but it's really important that you can carry that.
Yes, right, on your own 2 feet, on your little feet. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So
great.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much. Why don't you go ahead and just remind the audience where they can find you, where they can find your awesome products, because I think we're going to have a lot of people interested in going over there and giving you a shout out.
Great. My website is www.nicoleapelian.com. That's NicoleApelian. My apothecary is on that. There's a link there. I'm on Facebook my public page is Nicole Italian Survival, and I'm on Instagram under my name, Nicole Italian. And I always have lots of tips and tricks, and if you have questions, I'm open for advice of things that you might need. I'm happy to suggest what I would do if I was in your situation, and I'm happy to help people out to make some choices that they might need to make if they're looking for herbal remedies. So I'd love to hear from people, and was really glad to come on the show today. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it was my honor, like I say. Hopefully everything went really good with Season 5 of Alone, and you're going to be just kind of basking in some of that sunshine for a little bit.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole, so much for coming on the show. It was an absolute treat to get to meet you. And I do have some bonus content from Nicole's and mine's conversation that is available on patreon.com. It's for my Patreon members only. They get access to bonus material that I put together off of our interviews. So it's just a little bit of me and Nicole chit-chatting about, life and the way things are, and I provide that bonus material for you. You can sign up on Patreon at patreon.com/Changing Earth to get a hold of all those goodies. And, you get access to that content for as little as $3 a month. So it's a great deal. Head on over there and check it out. Once again, thank you for listening to the show today. We had a blast. Well, one of my favorite chapters, got to have Nicole on the show, so I'm definitely going to have this show engraved in gold. It was a blast to put together, and I really appreciate you being on this journey with me. So until next time, remember, dream, survive, thrive.
Thank you for joining Sara for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, and Battle for the South at www.author.sarafhathaway.com. If you love Sara's books and this podcast, please head over to Amazon or iTunes and let everyone know by leaving a review.